Hello everyone, Derek Johnson with Tatango.com. This is Text Message Marketing Week in Review for week 41 of 2020. Where are we getting all these text messages? SMSarchives.com. Check it out. Thousands of text messages have been archived by some of the best brands in the United States. You can search, filter by industry brand. It's a great resource for anybody using text message marketing, or if you're not using text message marketing, to see how other brands like your brand are already using text message marketing to get ideas. So without further ado, let's jump right into week 41. Let's start off with Murad. Okay, your go-to holiday, and right off the bat, love this because there's emojis. I love when people use emojis in their text messages. Gift guide is here. Check everyone off your list with gifts starting at $16, and then they have the link. What's happening here is the iPhone is, instead of just showing the link as a blue link, it's essentially kind of previewing the link, and it's pulling information from the website into the messaging portal on the phone. If a brand is going to do this, I always recommend to pull in a kind of optimized image as well. There is no image right here, so it just makes it more clickable if there's an image there. But overall, good message. One thing too is make sure there's a clear call to action. Check off everyone on your list with gifts starting at $16. Like, I don't know what I'm clicking on. Like, is that a checklist, or am I getting the promo? Do I shop on my phone? What do you want me to do? With email, it's relatively simple because it's like click on the button below. For SMS, just make sure it's very clear. Check off everyone on your list with gifts starting at $16. Click to shop below. Something as simple as that. So that could be a way to improve on this message. All right, let's go to the next one. And again, these are coming from SMSarchives.com. Check it out. Boot Barn, join our team for the holidays. Visit any store for open interviews or apply online. This is great. This is a great example. I'm always talking about how brands need to kind of mix up their messages. It can't always just be 15% off. It could be, buy one, get one free. It could be, 15% off. It could be, go like us on Instagram, reply back. Like, you got to mix up your messaging as much as possible. This one is great because it shows that Boot Barn, whoever's managing this SMS campaign, is a team player. They're going out to the rest of the company and saying, hey guys, we have, hundreds of thousands of SMS subscribers, maybe even millions. How can I help you? And I bet they went to the HR department or recruitment department, and they were like, wow, that'd be great if we could get some, of our biggest fans to become some of our best employees. So great use of, whoever's managing this campaign going out and talking to the rest of their company and being a team player. This can also work, with social, with the website people, anybody in your company. Ask them, hey, we have a lot of SMS subscribers. What can I link to? What can I help you with? And then also it just mixes up the content, so you'll get less unsubscribes. So great use of SMS to not just send out coupons, but use it for recruitment. And we're seeing a lot of recruitment text messages right now, I think, with things starting to pick up again, especially during the holidays. All right, next one, Lane Bryant. Right off the bat, again, love emojis. I also love that it didn't just say Lane Bryant at the start. I love when it says like flash sale and it has emoji and then it says 70% off, because what happens is on the mobile phone, when you pick it up and you see the preview of the message, usually it doesn't preview the whole message, it previews the start of the message, a preview. Instead of just saying like Lane Bryant, 70% off, it says flash sale, 70% off, and most likely it cuts it off around there. That's great because I'd go, ooh, that's interesting. I want to open that message and see what's going on. So really great, use of kind of the first, 40, 50 characters of the message, and then great use of a call to action, shop now. So it's very clear what they're doing and what Lane Bryant wants the consumer to do, which is shop now. You could even say shop now, click here, or something like that. Then one thing I always recommend, if you're going to include help for help, stop for stop, exclusions apply, whatever you want to include at the bottom that really doesn't help in terms of ROI, you want to include line breaks, multiple line breaks, and you want to put it kind of, so here's all, let's say, the text, and all the good stuff. You want to put line break and then another line break, maybe even 2 line breaks or 3 line breaks. Put it at the very bottom. You don't need it distracting from the call to action and kind of the overall goal of the message. So line breaks, line breaks, line breaks. Can't talk more about line breaks, especially if you're using like MMS and you're using like 5,000 characters in a message. Line break, line break, line break. Always use line breaks. Okay, this is another one, Brevite. Okay, so this one is interesting. They use a lot of line breaks, which I highly recommend. Really cool. They're sending it from a person. Now, who knows if Danny's actually even a real person, but I do know that some brands have been, implementing this kind of strategy where it's like, hey, this is Jason at XY brand. I thought you would be interested in this. Most brands that are testing this, they are reporting that they're getting a higher ROI, higher click-through rate. Now, I don't know if you can continually do this because it might get old after a while, but maybe mixing it in, saying, hey, this is Jessica, I thought you might find this interesting, and then go back to the regular messaging and then mix that in every once in a while. The one concern I have about this message is it's really, really big. It's an MMS message, so they're using the image at the top. They have a lot of text with a lot of line breaks. Again, I love the line breaks because it breaks it up. I can easily read this. And then at the bottom, they're using the link preview, and then they have an image too. So, you got to kind of watch out. I don't know if, people would be more likely to click on this or less likely because they can't read the whole thing, or maybe, it focuses them because as they scroll, they're only seeing certain parts of the message. I don't know. This is why you do A/B testing, test out what works for your, customers, your subscribers. But good use of kind of the whole messaging. One thing I'm noticing here is if you're going to use the first name strategy, let's say, I wouldn't put your brand name at the very start, because then that automatically discounts and says, well, that's not really Danny, that's Brevite pretending to be Danny. So I would do something like, right off the bat, hey, this is Danny. I just want to remind you to ditch the boring camera bag. This could be you, something along those lines. I think that would be much more believable. All right, let's jump to the next one. That was a good one, though. All right. Oh, that is it. That was a simple, easy one. So that is week 41 of the Text Message Marketing Week in Review, brought to you by Tatango.com. But where you can find all of these text messages is SMSarchives.com. Check it out. Thousands of text messages have been archived. I think it's like 3,000 plus text messages now. Again, great for newbies that are looking for inspiration, or maybe veterans that are kind of getting bored with what they're currently doing. Some of these brands like Brevite or Lane Bryant, they're doing some interesting things, so you can get some ideas on how to leverage your own subscriber database to drive ROI for your SMS campaign. So again, my name is Derek Johnson with Tatango.com. Thanks everyone for tuning in.